the Sacred Bee Priestess. Welcome back to another episode of Wild Feminine Magic. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get into the video. Bees have been featured in myth and folklore around the world, and have helped us to rediscover the religion of the earth and Gaia's life-giving wisdom. Human relationship with honeybees has evolved from prehistoric reverence to keeping them agriculturally. The Great Mother Queen Bee Goddess originated over 10,000 years ago, and her images are seen in the ancient civilizations of Egypt, Crete, Anatolia, India, and Greece. She was worshipped in Egypt around 3000 BC, a time when Egyptians honored the sacred honeybee and when divine feminine and masculine were more equal and sacred counterparts in harmony with nature. The priestesses who worshipped the bee goddess were called 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐿 and were honored for their sacred powers of nurturing, sensuality, grace, intuition, fertility and ecstasy. They served the goddess as shamans, oracles, healers, teachers, guides and mothers with these divine feminine qualities. Bee Priestess Path. In Minoan myth, the bee was an emblem of Potnia, also referred to as the pure mother bee. The priestesses of Demeter were also called Melissae, and Melissa was a name of Artemis. The frame drum was played by these ancient priestesses of the bee goddesses in the temples of Aphrodite, Artemis, Cybele, Demeter, Persephone, and Neith. Their rituals and rhythms were drawn from their interaction with their beehives. There is a Homeric hymn to Hermes describing the divination taught by the 𝐦𝐤𝐤𝐿, three nymphs who taught the art of prophecy to Apollo. They were the Melissae of ancient Greece, the original bee nymphs of Mount Parnassus named Melena, Cleodora, and Daphnis. The 𝐦𝐤𝐤𝐿 are depicted as winged bee goddesses on gold plaques from the 7th century, found in Chimeras, Rhodes. But I will tell you another thing, son of all glorious Maya and Zeus who holds the aegis, luck-bringing genius of the gods. There are certain holy ones, sisters born, 3 virgins gifted with wings, their heads are besprinkled with white meal, and they dwell under a ridge of Parnassus. These are teachers of divination apart from me, the art which I practiced while yet a boy following herds, though my father paid no heed to it. From their home they fly now here, now there, feeding on honeycomb and bringing all things to pass. And when they are inspired through eating yellow honey, they are willing to speak truth, but if they be deprived of the gods' sweet food, then they speak falsely, as they swarm in and out together. These, then, I give you, inquire of them strictly and delight your heart, and if you should teach any mortal so to do, often will he hear your response, if he have good fortune. Take these, son of Maya, and tend the wild roving, horned oxen and horses and patient mules. In all the stories, the Melissae are symbols of regeneration and renewal and are also usually considered to be associated with the underworld. According to the book, The Myth of the Goddess, Evolution of an Image, the etymology of the word fate in Greek offers a fascinating example of how the genius of the Minoan vision entered the Greek language, often visibly, as well as informing its stories of goddesses and gods. The Greek word for fate, death and goddess of death is 𝐬𝐤𝐤𝐿, feminine, the word for heart and breast is 𝐻𝐾𝐤, neuter, while the word for honeycomb is 𝐻𝐾arion, neuter. The common root 𝐻 links the ideas of the honeycomb, goddess, death, fate and the human heart, a nexus of meanings that is illumined if we know that the goddess was once imagined as a bee. In Baring and Jules Cashford, The Myth of the Goddess, Evolution of an Image. The Melissae were virginal priestesses because of the pureness of the honey. They drank a toxic honey made from psychedelic plants to enable themselves to experience visions. Bees are also often called veil-winged and represent the alchemical initiation of removing the veils to reach the goddess in the inner temple. Apollo learned the art of prophecy from the Melissae and was also the god of light and music. Sacred music and dance played an important role in the lives of the Melissae. In goddess Artemis of Ephesus we have our most renowned bee patroness. As the goddess of nature and the hunt, forests, hills, rocks and rivers, she oversaw the home territory of wild bees, especially in her temple community, in Ionia, at Ephesus, modern-day Turkey. The bee was associated with Ephesus for many reasons. Ephesus was led by the muses who took the shape of bees. Artemis priestesses were called Melissae or bees of the goddess and were directed by king bees, 𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐿, priests who served a year-long term under strict rules of purity. Bees were sacred as they brought their magical nectar from the otherworld. When the Ephesian Artemis appears in her regal Anatolian format, bees are often shown on her belt or tight skirt. Some scholars trace the Ephesian Artemis back to an earlier Anatolian goddess whom the Hittites called 𝐻𝐻𝐻𝐻. In the Aegean, the bee was always associated with a major divinity. In Crete, the cave in which Rhea had given birth to Zeus was sacred to bees. In another legend, the daughters of King Melicius gave nourishment to Zeus as the divine child. According to one story, Zeus himself had a son called Melidius, who was also fed by bees. Some scholars interpret the name of the Cretan divinity Britomyrtis as meaning bee maiden. The Cretan princess Melissa was said to have been the first priestess of the Magna Mater, and in later times other priestesses of the cult were said to have been named after her, Melissae. Bee dances and the sacred bees. And on the island of Rhodes, 2 gold plaques were found, on each of which was a figure, part woman and part bee, Asiatic in inspiration, depicting the bee priestess as a devotee to the Great Mother. Through all these stories, sculptures, legends, song and dance, we see the bee priestess as an embodiment of divine feminine power who teaches us how to live in harmony with nature. The sacred path of the bee priestess lives on today as her priestesses and oracles remember once again the sacred way and resurrect this path for modern times. That brings us to the end of today's video all about the sacred bee priestess. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to leave a thumbs up and to subscribe to Wild Feminine Magic for even more fascinating content, just like this. As always, thanks for watching. See you again soon in the next one.